Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to the Most High, Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Rakakwadash, and I want to say Shalom to Yak and Akwat out there pursuing this truth diligently. Coming at you once again with another lesson. And this one's really about Esau not minding his business, right? And trying to maintain a holier-than-thou persona. Meanwhile, you know, they're really the ones that are doing all this profane and disgusting shit. And we've done quite a few lessons on Esau recently, so I'm just keeping that spirit rolling. We got Don't Let This Wicked World Corrupt Your Mind. What goes around is getting ready to come around from the Lord E. We're entering dangerous times. The Lord will protect his chosen. And then, you know, the second part to that one as well. And then, of course, just a few days ago before those was the two more titled E's God Complex is going to be completely shattered by the Lord. And another one, Keep That Same Energy when the Lord comes back, E. And this one was inspired, of course, through the Holy Spirit of Yahweh Shai Shai. But coming through Threads, this video here that was posted by this lady, I believe it to be a lady, excuse me, Miriam Montiel, all right, about, I guess, 7 of 8 people charged with Bibco bunker child, you know, abuse case, all right, and they're arriving in court. And you can see that they are all so-called white individuals. Now, before somebody tries to get smart, you might see a melanated individual, you know, peeping off the side, and he's not involved. You can actually go and look up the people. He's not involved at all. These 2 women are. So there's one. All right. Let me just so one. See if I can show you. So one right there. Okay. Then you got 2, 3, 4. Okay, so you got one right here. All right. Then you got 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, let's go back. Maybe that was 5. Let's see. Yeah, you got the one in the white. Okay, so 1, and 2, 3, 4, 5. So it was the one in the white. All right, the one in the first. That's why the camera wasn't on him, is because he wasn't a part of it. And again, they're transporting multiple people. So let's go back and show you who's who. You got the first guy in the white. 1. Okay. So 1. Ignore this guy right here. All right. 1 is a white shirt. 2, 3, 4. All right. And then the guy in the back, right here. Okay, right there. 5. You got 5 men. Then you got 6, a woman. And then 7, another woman. And you can see 7 of 8 people charged in the Bibco bunker child abuse case arrive at court. So those are the individuals. Okay. So before people try to get smart, oh, there was a black guy. I saw the dreads in there. I saw the dreads in there. Well, he's not involved in this. You got to realize those buses like that, they're transporting multiple people. And just a good chunk of them happen to be, you know, these guys. Now, what I wanted to do is I want to actually go and look into this. You can type in Bibco bunker. See, there's that one of that lady. Now, I guess that was the mother. All right. She fears inmate attacks. Oh, well, shame, shame, shame. All right. These are the people. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right. And there's only one individual that seems to be anything other than white. And I don't know necessarily what this guy is. See, he might just be white. He just might be a darker white. because one of my so-called cousins, not really my cousin, it's just my a lady that was dating my uncle. She has a son with had a son with a different man, and he's white, but he's so-called white, but he's gets a darker complexion, all right, because he has so-called Italian in him. But that guy is an Edomite. You can tell he's not one of the Jake Italians, right? But anyway, um I haven't heard too much about, I guess, in case you missed it, what we know so far about the bunker case. I guess we can go and look in this a little bit. I'm going to open this in a private window just because it's linking to Facebook, and I think I got my Facebook logged in on there for family and shit. Let me go and see what's going on. It's a 6-minute video. I'm interested. We'll just cut it off whenever. Fair use, fair use, fair use.
Woods of Bibb County. So what we know about the case and an investigation. Disturbing details emerging from the woods of Bibb County. A story that began with a single call to authorities and ended with a dark discovery beneath the ground. Now multiple people stand accused of unspeakable crimes against children as young as 3. Now we want to hear from you. How can communities better protect children? Scan the QR code on your screen or go to abc3340.com to vote. The I-Team Valerie Bell takes you inside the case, rocking a rural community to its foundation.
Down a dirt road off Aaron Drive near Brent, Alabama, tucked away in the trees, what investigators call a crime scene like no other.
I cannot think of a way to describe it other than just horrific.
Those words from Bibb County Sheriff Jody Wade describing a case that has rocked his community.
Have you ever seen anything like this before?
No, ma'am.
It began February 4th with a tip about possible child abuse. What investigators uncovered was far worse. At least 10 children ages 3 to 15, allegedly victims of rape, trafficking, and sexual torture. The abuse allegedly happened inside a hidden underground bunker, once built as a storm shelter.
That's something that never leaves your mind, and and when you have those times when it's just kind of dark and quiet and it's just you and your thoughts, it can. There's things you never forget in law enforcement.
8 suspects in this case face more than 100 felony counts combined.
Some of the victims
and this is
the offenders were their parents
and by 1 minute,
different relatives and things like that.
Let's go back first of all.
Face more than 100 felony counts combined.
Some of the victims, the offenders were their parents and different relatives and things.
So no one's really talking about this though, right? No one's really talking about this, hardly at all. This is the first time I think I've ever heard about it, and this is going on since right here. This was posted in September 19th of 2025. So the question you have to ask yourself is, why isn't this being reported on? Right? And the reason why this isn't being reported on is because this is not something that Esau particularly wanted, all right, to come to the light. This is not something that they particularly want you to have your focus on. But this, as the scriptures say, and we always get this one, shall be heard in the light. Okay. Because I said coming to light. I thought that's how it was, but close. But no good. Close don't cut it. So this is Luke 12 and 2 through 3. This is the usual scripture that we get for it. At least me, right? So Luke 12 and 2 through, maybe I want to go up through 1. What do we got in 1? Oops. Nah, 2's fine. All right, so Luke 12 and 2 through 3, it says, "For there is nothing covered that shall not be revealed." Okay, so nothing that you hide, nothing that you put a veil on, nothing that you put a tarp over, okay, shut the door behind, okay, that shall not be revealed, neither hid that shall not be known. And this is the type of prophetic happenings, all right, because this is prophecy, all right, because it's been happening back then and it happens now. The Lord's letting you know that there's nothing, and it's his Bible, right? So everything that he tells you in that Bible, everything that's written, whether it be the account of other men or himself, or, he never really physically grabbed the Bible, of course. It's all accounts that he told other men. But whether it's accounts that he told other men that they wrote, or men they were writing letters or whatever, because some people say, well, some of those were just books of letters like Corinthians and stuff. Whatever is in there is all ordained by Yahweh Shemiah Shai as part of his message. This is the one I always get for that. This is 2 Timothy 3 and 16. I think there's another one, but that's the one I'm going to get. Thought there was one that was a little bit longer, but this is what we're looking for anyway. 2 Timothy 3 and 16, it says, all scriptures given by inspiration of Yahweh. That's the Father, all right? It says God there, all right, if you're looking at it plainly. It says, and is profitable for doctrine and reproof, for correction, for instruction in righteousness, okay? So it's good for doctrine, all right? The meaning of basing your life around, the system, all right? The system, the doctrine, all right? That's the system, okay? That's the framework, okay? That tells you if you should do something, you shouldn't do something. If you should say something, you shouldn't say something. How to act, how to live, how to walk, how to talk, how to hold yourself, right? What to do, what not to do, what's coming, what's not coming, right? All those different things, right? It's profitable for doctrine. It's profitable, okay? Everybody knows what profit is, right? When you put money in the mix, all right? But this isn't profitable for your pocket. This is profitable for your soul, okay? And profitable for doctrine, okay? Scripture is. For reproof, that's correction, all right? If someone's doing something wrong, or if you're doing something wrong, you can search the scriptures, all right? And it's going to let you know through that doctrine if what you or that person is doing wrong. And with that, it says for correction, correcting it, all right? Either you're correcting somebody else through reproof or rebuke. Reproof's a little bit lighter, rebuke's a little bit harsher. And you're either saying, hey, man, I just saw that you were kind of going off on that. Didn't know if you knew that was wrong. Oh, I didn't know. My bad. Okay, yeah, well, that's fine. I figured you didn't know. That's why I'm not coming down on you hard with a hammer. But then, if they've been in for years, and they do something, that's going to be a rebuke. I mean, come on now, right? And those are forms of correction. And how do we form those corrections? Do we form them by our thoughts? Do we form them how we feel? Do we go into our feelings? All right, do we worry about how we say something, if it's going to hurt someone's feelings or if it's going to affect our feelings? No. We use the scriptures, all right? We don't argue with speech when it comes to the doctrine. At least we might argue with someone else about outside of the scripture if it's not a non-scriptural argument. But when we're dealing with this truth, we don't just spout whatever, all right? We might go on a ramble for 20, 30 minutes, but we always end up getting reset back to the scriptures, because again, we can only continue so long before we got to get the scriptures. And meanwhile, usually in that tangent that we're running on, it's usually referring to scriptural things, okay? But there's a lot of individuals out there, and there's a lot of people that are calling themselves as Hebrew Israelites out there. You got Bishop Nathaniel, you got Tazariak, you got, countless individuals. If you really want, he's not associated with the Hebrew Israelites anymore, but you got Alazar, right, aka Gorilla Hebrew, okay? You got him, you got Hakah, all right, or Hassad, Salakia. No, it's Hakah, not Hassad, Deacon Hakah, all right? And you got all of them, right? And they're going off about everything, man. They're going off about everything. Okay? If this truth was a series of light switches, most of those motherfuckers wouldn't even have one on. Right? They wouldn't even have one of those light switches on. Okay? It'd just be a series of switched off lights. And Bishop Nathaniel, he's got a zeal, right, as the scripture says, not according to knowledge. And I'd thoroughly like to see, we'd like to see everybody, repent and turn back from their ways and start teaching, good stuff and not just be destroyed for their wickedness. But out of all those, man, it sucks to see Bishop Nathaniel the most, because he has the biggest platform, okay? And with the biggest platform like that, you could really be helping the nation of Israel, all right, if you were teaching the right thing. But instead, you're leading people astray en masse. And because you're not using the correct doctrine, all right? You're going off of what you feel, okay? And you can't do that. That's why I mentioned those guys, because they go off of what they feel, okay, what they feel like, or something that anything to not prove what GMS said was correct. Okay, and again, I'm not in GMS, but that's the same doctrine I teach, the same doctrine they teach, and the same doctrine they teach is the same doctrine within the Holy Bible. Okay, and they're the only ones that are teaching it to the 100% capacity for the most part. All right, you got people like me that are students of theirs essentially through the internet ministry, and we're raised up under them, right, by watching and listening and taking notes. And we don't go and just for edification, we don't go and watch these other camps lessons. We might go over there and watch them to correct what they said and make a video about, look at this crazy ass doctrine they're teaching or something. But we don't watch it for edification. All right, we don't watch it for doctrinal reasons. In a way we do, but we're looking for false doctrine so we can do a lesson on it. But other than GMS and their the affiliate thing kind of dissolved, but their true students is how I'll say it, through Yahweh Shem Shai, or if you want to just lump them into what they really are, the house of David. All right, if you just want to lump us all together to what we really are, we're just the house of David. Okay, but other people aren't building up the house of David. They're too busy building up the house of Saul or the house of whoever the hell they are. All right, the house of Alazar. All right, excuse me. The house of Alazar. You're trying to build up a house of Alazar, and that's not even a house. You're just trying to make yourself something out of nothing. All right, you got the Edomite spirit on you, right? Or you do. Alazar really does have an Edomite spirit on him because he has that, the butt plug demon on him, right? And all Edomite men have that. All Edomite men have that. Every single one of them. Every single one of them, man. Every single one of them. And the amount of things that I've heard, coming out of Esau is just disgusting, man. All right, just disgusting. And we're currently in Sabbath, so I'm not going to mention too many of those things. But the games that these guys play with one another, it's just sick, man. It's just sick. All right. I don't. I'm not gonna even mention it because I don't want people to be persuaded to go and even look up what it could potentially be. But I read a Reddit post about it one time. Basically them doing games that are really just them performing homosexual acts with each other. Right. That's all it is. And that's not a game. That's just homosexual acts. All right. That's just sodomy. Right. That's just being a sodomite. Anyway. Yeah, so all scripture, all right, that's what we have this for, all right? It's profitable for reproof, all right, and for instruction, okay? I kind of lost the original point that I was going in on that, but going back to Luke 12 and 2 through 3, it says, for there is nothing covered that shall not be revealed, neither hid that shall not be known, okay? So everything that these individuals have tried to cover up, all right, is being revealed. All right, everything that they've tried to hide in the back of the closet, it's coming out. It's being known. Right. It says, and that's, for example, we were talking about Alazar. That's what happened with Alazar. Tried to cover that up. All right, it was revealed. Right. Everything eventually gets revealed in due time, in due season. In verse 3, it says, therefore, whatsoever ye have spoken in darkness. That's the other thing. Not just physical things or things that you do. It's also words that you've said. Therefore, whatsoever ye have spoken in darkness shall be heard in the light, and that which ye have spoken in the ear and closet shall be proclaimed upon the housetops. So these type of situations right here, going back into the video that we're watching, these are the types of situations that really these people try to cover up. Okay, they try to cover these things up. Esau doesn't want this out. Okay, but it's just prophecy, right? Within Luke 12 and 2 through 3. Is that, again, there's nothing covered that shall not be revealed. They thought they were good because they were in that bunker. All right, maybe they even had some other thoughts that maybe because they're so-called white people that they'll get a lesser charge, or that maybe it won't make it to the news, or so on and so forth, right? But of course, the Lord had it happen to where these people were all revealed, okay? So let's see. What do I want to do here? All right. Yeah, we'll just play it.
1. Olivia Shelley Elam charged with 5 counts of first-degree rape, 9 counts of sodomy, 9 counts of human trafficking of minors, 9 counts of kidnapping, 1 count of aggravated child abuse and sexual torture of a child under 12. Elam has no significant previous history. William Chase McElroy, charged with 4 counts of first-degree rape, 6 counts of sodomy, 6 counts of trafficking, and 4 counts of kidnapping. Law enforcement says he admitted to inappropriate contact with a child. No major criminal history noted before this case. Dalton Terrell facing 5 counts of rape, 7 counts of sodomy, 6 counts of trafficking, and 4 counts of kidnapping. Investigators say he confessed to unlawful sexual activity. Rebecca Brewer, charged with first-degree rape, 8 counts of trafficking, 8 counts of kidnapping, and 3 counts of sexual torture. Ricky Terrell, charged with first-degree rape and sexual torture of a child less than 12. He has prior drug arrests. Sarah Louise Terrell, charged with 1 count of sexual torture and 2 counts of child sexual abuse under 12. Timothy St. John, with prior arrest for theft, burglary, and drug offenses, now charged with 2 counts of rape, 4 counts of sodomy, 4 counts of trafficking, 3 counts of kidnapping, 1 count of bestiality, and 1 count of cruelty to animals. Andres Trejo Velasquez, charged with 6 counts of trafficking, accused of sending explicit images and connecting victims with offenders.
So I guess he was, Latino of some type. But that's 1 out of the, the rest. Okay. That doesn't, free him of anything. Come on, what are we doing here? What are we doing?
Verified member of the Serenos gang.
There you go, Serenos. Okay, so yeah, he's banging. All right. Again, never said our people don't do anything, but that's 1.
To animals. Andres Trejo Velasquez, charged with 6 counts of trafficking, accused of sending explicit images and connecting victims with offenders. The Department of Homeland Security confirms HSI helped in his arrest and adds that he's a verified member of the Serenos gang. Together, investigators say the group allegedly orchestrated a systematic and coordinated operation, arranging so-called appointments in the bunker for child sexual exploitation.
As you start, turning over more rocks, that just more things develop. And fortunately, I think everything in this particular case is what we know we've got handled right now as far as the children and the suspects.
Back in July, prior to a gag order being issued prohibiting law enforcement and attorneys from speaking with the media, District Attorney Robert Turner Jr. assured the case was a top priority.
We're going to do everything that we can to make sure that justice is meted out in this case.
While law enforcement continues its investigation.
Do you believe that there are more victims or suspects out there?
That will be hard to say. We're still looking to see if there are. We're not aware of any local victims that have not been identified, so we're now just trying to run down any more possible offenders, even if they could be from, out of state or somewhere that may have traveled here.
With this case involving children, Jacksonville State University instructor in the social work department, Stephanie Griffin, explains the impact.
The trauma is there. Every case of abuse has a different level of trauma, but you have to think about those young children. They're still they're learning to trust adults, and who can I trust and how do I trust, and that completely breaks that down for them, and they need to go through some extensive therapy.
Griffin says treatment won't be one size fits all, but therapy and coping sessions will be crucial.
Like you mentioned, family members who should be the people that we can trust. And so there's a significant level of trauma that is there for those kids, and the idea would be that they receive some intensive therapy. That is available in most counties at child advocacy centers for free.
And for the children involved in this Bibb County case, Sheriff Wade says the children are safe now and are undergoing counseling.
With the Department of Human Resources being involved, they're able to get those children to a safe place, make sure their mental and physical needs are met, get them into the counseling that's going to be best to help them have as a normal life as they possibly can following that point.
In Bibb County, Valerie Bell, ABC 3340 I-Team.
And let's go back to our poll question. We asked, how can communities better protect children? Now, there's still time to vote. Just scan the QR code on your screen or go to ABC 30.
I guess that's all it's going to give us. So, yeah, man. But yeah, these are the type of things they try to these are the things that they try to hide up. You know, they don't want these things getting out. And again, because it harms their narrative, right? It harms their narrative. They don't like it. And the reason it harms their narrative is because they're trying to perpetrate and state that Jake, okay, the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans are the worst people, right? We're the ones doing all the crime. We're the ones doing all the all the crime in general, all the crime, you know, they're all crimes, but murders and attacks and grapes and all these different things. And when it comes out that these people, all right, so-called white people, the Edomites, are really the ones doing it, well, it doesn't look so good, and it really it damages their false narrative that they're trying to build. I wish we could see the comments on it. That's fine. But yeah, so we can get out of here now. So, what else? See, what else do I want to show? I was just looking at this. He's just trying to grift. All right, Charleston White be switching lanes faster than GSP. Well, you know, they're doing, I guess, Austin Metcalf's dad, called Austin, called Carmelo Anthony a watermelon felon, right? And that's been going around. Let's see. Then you have this. So I terminated someone last night, and he called me racist. You know, all these different things. I'm just looking through here, and this is what's really been going on with threads lately, right? People have been all pissed off, and a lot of racial shit going on. But let me go ahead and get to my saved here. Let me go ahead and pause real quick because it's gonna flash my username. So 1 minute. All right, we're back. So I want to play a little bit of this. I don't know what all he's saying, but let's see.
All four of these motherfuckers, I want y'all to remember these faces because these was the motherfuckers that had a bunker in Alabama filled with kids. At least 6 kids aging from 3 to 10 years old was taken to this bunker and drugged. And investigators say that there are multiple suspects accused of paying to sexually abuse these children. Now, allegedly, they claim that the kids was being held down here against their will. Like, I really hope they throw the book at these motherfuckers. 3 of the 4 suspects are being held on multiple counts of first-degree rape, multiple accounts of first-degree human trafficking. 2 out of the 4 gentlemen are being held on multiple counts against kidnapping. I really hope they throw the book at these motherfuckers. Now, under Alabama law, any suspect that is convicted of having a case with a minor 6 years or younger is automatically life in prison. Like, seriously, how could some motherfuckers do some shit like this? All 4 of these motherfuckers, I want y'all to remember these.
So life. So we'll see if they let him off easy. All right, now let's see what people are saying in here. Top person, all right, it says not a drag queen, not a black person, not an immigrant. Well, depends. We don't necessarily know the situation. That one guy was a Sereno. But still. And really, if you really want to get down to it, that guy could be an Edomite. I'm not going to go off and try to just pawn that off and just be like, oh, well, no, he's not a Jake. He could be a Jake. But we do know a lot of the so-called Mexicans, you know, a lot of them are Jakes, all right? You know, Israelites, because they go back to the tribe of Issachar, but a lot of them aren't as well, because it's the same thing with so-called Negroes as well, right? Just as with the so-called Negroes, all right, over there in the East Coast primarily, because that's where the plantations were. You had slave masters, all right, that were getting with, well, not getting, because getting implies, you know, some level of consent. They were just going and graping married women, all right, that already had men. Black men at that, all right, husbands, all right, so-called other Jake men. But what they would do is they would go in there and pick one out and, you know, grape them, all right. And of course, I'm only saying grape. I hate to use that TikTok censor bullshit, but they don't really like that term being used. It's already been said a couple times here, and I don't want it to trip up the algorithm. But so they would do that, all right, pop them, all right, and then out would come a chocolate-covered Edomite, okay? Because we know biblically through ethnicity, your nationality was determined by the father. You can look that up. In ancient Israel, was identity, was your nationality or ethnicity determined by your father? And it's going to say yes, and it would go through the generation. That's the whole reason why, if you look into the generations of Adam, the generations of Yahushua, or as it's going to say, generations of Jesus Christ, you go in there and you're going to look, and it's going to be so-and-so begat a man, and this man begat this man, and this man had 2 wives, and from this wife he begat this son, and from this wife he begat this son, and then those sons begat these sons, and that's how it works. It's always men, right? So it's always men, because that's not that the women aren't important, all right? Because they still, have their importance, all right, in certain things, but their importance is not in the, the determination of ethnicity, okay, and bloodline, all right? Your bloodline's to your father. So their bloodline would be through their father, all right? The women's bloodline are of their father, okay? So when you say, for example, and you're always, say if I was to get with, or I or you or any of us, all right, were to get with a Edomite woman, okay, or a Moabite woman, a Moabite so-called, Chinese one. That child, all right, might pick up some, so-called white Edomite or so-called Asian Moabite features, okay, but at the end of the day, because I or you or whoever, all right, are Israelites, they're going to be Israelites. Okay, that's how you end up with people like me in the first place that don't necessarily look like so-called Black, Latino, and Native American individuals, but are Israelites. Okay, so there could that could be this. So again, in the transatlantic slave trade and the plantations that were going down, yeah, they were popping. So there's a lot of those Jakes over there, well, a lot of those people that look like Jakes, excuse me, there really ain't Jakes at all. All right, they might look like so-called black people, but they're really Edomites with a coat of brown paint. That's all they are. Right, it's the same thing with Issachar, well, not Issachar, but the people that look like Issachar, the so-called Mexicans. The same thing with the Mexicans, as they're called, because you had the original indigenous people over there. All right, well, they weren't truly indigenous, all right, but they were there before Esau was there. Really, all our people are indigenous to Israel, and that's another whole story as well. But they were there before Edomites, and that's all that mattered. Before the white man came, they were there, all right? Gad and Issachar, all right, primarily. And you say, well, what's the difference? Well, Gad was, the regular Native Americans, as people think. But Issachar, they didn't exist as Mexicans. They existed as Aztecs, okay? Ancient Aztecs, okay? And you can go and look that up, all right? Aztecs, okay? The Aztec was a highly advanced Mesoamerican civilization that dominated central Mexico from the 14th to 16th century. Okay, that's what they say. But look, it said they established a powerful culture. So these are the Issacharites. Okay, these are the Issacharites. It says, and if you look in their art, it actually looks like Native American art as well, right? And this is really, if you look at their art, it's not quite as light as that, but they got to make it as light as possible. It says they established a powerful, culturally rich empire known for its remarkable agriculture, monumental architecture, and sophisticated societal structure before falling to Spanish conquistadors in 1521. And the Spanish conquistadors are the conquistadorians, all right? Those are those Edomites, all right? And when those, you can see them, when those Edomites came over, all right, here's one murdering a Native American. We'll just leave that up on the screen for the time being. When that was happening, okay, they were also killing the men, raping the women, okay, and they ended up popping a lot of Aztec, aka or Issacharite, aka Aztec women. Now again, it always goes to the bloodline of the father. So when that came down, all right, you have a lot of these so-called Mexicans that are out here, and you wonder why they love the white man so much, and they talk like the white man, they walk like the white man, they want to be the white man. They hate the black people, they hate the other Mexicans. Well, a lot of them are terrorists, okay, because of the conquistadorian empire that was formed, and basically Mexico was heavily colonized, okay, heavily colonized. Okay, right here. The first one, Hernan Cortez. And that's the reason why you have last names like that now, all right? It wasn't that, none of our people were originally Latin, all right? That language that you speak, that isn't the Mexican's language. That's the white man's language, okay? Our language is Hebrew, Okay, our language is Hebrew. The so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans is Hebrew. Now, there's a little bit of remnant left with the Gadites, all right, with the so-called Native Americans, because they did study in a lot of those dialects, and they found out they have remnants of Hebrew language in them. How does that happen? All right, or some of them not so much remnants as Hebrew as quite a good chunk of vocabulary that's actually Hebrew or bastardized form of Hebrew. How does that come about? There would have been no point where they would ever been able to learn Hebrew. It's because that goes back to our original language. All right, Hebrew, ancient Hebrew, mind you, Paleo Hebrew as it's called. So, but there's a lot of these individuals out here that are going around and masquerading, calling themselves Mexican, and they're really they are Mexican, but they're not Israelites. Okay, and there's a good chunk. All right, there's a good chunk. Okay, it's the same thing with so-called black people. Maybe not quite so as prevalent with so-called black people, but it's still prevalent. Okay, it's still there. It's something to still be considered. But again, not saying that because you have these camps out here, not GMS, of course, when I say camps, these other camps, these wackos, reprobates, that are saying, it's black only, black only. No. There are the Gadites, and Gadites hate so-called white people. When the white man came, he ruined everything. Stereotypical voice. But they do kind of sound like that if you watch those videos. Even modern, right? It's kind of like saying it's a stereotypical. Say, Mexicans kind of talk like this, man. Well, if you go down in California in certain parts like Corona and area like that, they're in San Diego, that's how they're going to talk, right? It's like you can hear a lot of Jake, hey, motherfucker, what's going on, man? Right? Stereotype for a reason. Just like a lot of white people, hey, man, you need to stop what you're doing. That's completely wrong what you're doing. And frankly, it's very offensive, and I don't like it. Right? So that's just how our people talk. That's how people talk, right? But anyway, but we're getting off topic, a topic for another day, really. But yeah, so but that's a lot of these Mexicans, man. So that guy could be Jake, could not be a Jake. All right, I'm not going to say he's not automatically not a Jake, because I'm not going to try to just say our people aren't wicked too. But the problem is that Esau is on the pinnacle of the wickedness scale. All right. And yeah, he's weighing at 99%, but Jake is on that scale 1%. All right. Esau's on that 90%, but Jake is on at 10. But Esau always stays looking to the right. All right. And looking at our 10%, saying, look at these guys, look at how much crime they're doing. Look at all they're doing. Look at all this crime. Look at all this wickedness that they're doing. It's horrible. They're terrible people. Meanwhile, they're weighing down the scale 90%. We're only 10%. All right. Which, if you look on a scale, would look like it would look like this. All right, you'd have these two scales, and then you'd have this one way down here. And then really it would be worse than that. You'd have all right, that's how the scale would look. All right. So they'd be all having all this weight. Okay, we'd have this, a little bit of weight here. We're not free and guilty of sin, all right? But they're over here, looking towards the right, all right? They're looking, let me draw an arrow, right? They're over here looking at us, and this is us, and they're saying, look at how much crime they're doing. Look at how wicked they are. Look, man, we're not the ones dragging on the floor over here, right? We're not the ones dragging on the floor. I mean, we do have our bit. We are doing our part, unfortunately, in wickedness, but it's not to your sheer levels. I mean, you're trying to fucking run, and you're going the distance, right? You're going for speed. I don't want to be singing a whole bunch on Sabbath, but I equate a lot of things with music. It's just in my nature, man. But not giving an excuse. I'm just playing around. But yeah, Esau's always constantly looking at, as I like to say, they're instead of looking in the mirror, they're looking out the window, right? They should be looking in the mirror, but they're looking out the window. I actually told Needhamite that the other day, because I was talking about, Jake did this or whatever, and I've stopped the argument because I've already had enough of the arguments. I basically responded to one or two. Just getting that information out there, nothing about the truth, but just proving them historically is proving their historical inaccuracies. And basically, I said you need to worry about looking in the mirror instead of trying to look out the window. Right? And it's true. Esau always tries to look out the window. Look in the mirror, man. Look at what you're doing. Look at the shit that you're doing with the kids, all right, the children. not going to use your term kids, and you call them kids because they're sacrificial goats to you. All right, so you can chop them up and do all sorts of weird, sick shit as you were doing in that bunker. But that's what they do. They're constantly not minding their business. Esau loves to mind other people's business, all right, instead of their own, all right, and because they think they're the judge of the whole earth. Okay, they think they're the governing force of the whole earth. You know, oh, what's the French man doing? Oh, and the Spanish man, what are you doing? Oh, what are you doing, little Palestinian man? Oh, are you doing this over here? Oh, interesting. And what are you doing over here, Turkish man and Australian man? Are we doing okay? And little Mexican man over here? How about you, little Nordic man? Are you going, oh, Nordic things? Going a little cold over there. Interesting, interesting. You know, and that's what they do. They can't mind their business. They have to mind other people's business because they can't keep it on their own. And I named a lot of Edomite nations because they even do it to themselves. All right, the American Edomite does it to everyone, and really they like to everyone, even their own people, right? Even their own people, right? And it's primarily driving force is really the 1948ers, all right, the Khazars, all right, that are masquerading around as us, all right, as Israelites, in that land that is called, all right, Israel. So that's what they do, man. They don't mind their business, and again, going back into what we were talking about, that guy very well could be an Israelite. He could not be an Israelite. Who knows? We know that Mexicans were very dominated people. We know before they were the Aztecs, and we know before they were called as Aztecs, they were called as Issacharites. Okay, but you know, that's all speculation as far as who that guy could potentially be. He could very well just be an Edomite. All right, he could very well just be an Israelite. But again, they're always looking at the window, out the window instead of the mirror. Yes, we do weigh that scale a little bit. I'm not trying to condone, all right, sin. I'm not trying to say we're guiltless. Our people are obviously, the reason we're here is because we're in punishment. We're under the curses because we weren't listening to the Lord. We were being disobedient. We are doing sin, which is wickedness. So yes, obviously our people do wickedness, but we're not doing it on the sheer scale that Esau is. Yet, in every little twist, turn, nook and cranny, Esau's always pointing the fingers at us, saying, look what they're doing, look what they're doing. Meanwhile, they have the colonization, they have the cannibalization, they have the homosexuality, they have the pedophilia, they have the bestiality, the incest, they have the eating of unclean animals, they have the robbery, the stealing, the graping, all right, the adultery. They have, you know, all the not paying people fair wages, which is still a form of theft, all these different things. But, you know, and they're the ones that are literally in rulership, and the reason why the whole world is mourning, all right, and in distress and in an uproar and in tumult and terror and depression. But no, we're the problem. All right, the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, we're the problem, even though we don't have any control of the infrastructure of the world. Somehow we're the ones making it all wrong. Meanwhile, you have Edomites that are not helping their people on welfare. They're barely giving them any food stamps. They're barely giving them any help. They're not getting them into housing. They're not giving them these things. But then they say, oh, well, you know, it's the Mexicans. They're the reasons why you can't, you know, they're the reasons why you can't get this. Why? Or how are they, you know, it's the immigrants. They're coming over here and taking, well, and the white man always say, oh, it's these Mexicans that are coming over here, and they're getting our food stamps, and you know, they're giving $1,000 a month. Well, and you're getting what, $100 a month? Well, that doesn't seem like something you should be mad at the Mexicans about. You need to ask yourself, why is the American government giving them $1,000, but they're not helping me? That's not something to be mad about the Mexican about. Okay, if I'm at school and the lunch lady keeps on handing this kid cookie after cookie after cookie after cookie after cookie, why should I be mad at that kid? Why? Because he's got a bunch of cookies and I don't? Well, I'm mad at the fucking lunch lady that keeps on giving him cookies and she won't even give me one. Think about it, man. Use your brain. But the problem is that they're so full of hatred that their brain, just the only thing it can be full of is shit, right? So Galatians 6:3, and this is the thing, Esau thinks of himself to be an arbitrator of justice, right? Well, Galatians 6:3, for if a man think himself to be something when he is nothing, he deceiveth himself. Now, again, this is usually talking about people that think they know more than they really do, all right? But this is the similar situation with Esau. He thinks himself to be something because of the pride that's in his heart that has deceived him. We're going to go and get Obadiah 2, 1 and 2 through 3, because I have made thee small among the heathen. First of all, you were on the bottom. You were made small among the heathen. You were on the bottom. Okay, matter of fact, we got to get through verse 1. Who's that talking about? Well, let's see who it's talking about. The vision of Obadiah, verse 1. So Obadiah 1 and 1 through 3, all the way down. We're going to read it all the way down. The vision of Obadiah, thus saith the Lord Yahweh concerning Edom, We have heard a rumor from the Lord, and an ambassador is sent among the heathen. Arise and let us rise up against her in battle. So this is concerning Edom. This is concerning Esau, all right, who, again, started his integration process into the modern Western world, all right, starting with King Herod. Okay, King Herod was an Edomite, and he got dissolved, and his empire and his children got dissolved into the Roman Empire. All right, the Romans. All right, and the Romans were eventually dispersed into all of Europe, and Europe, then into Europe. Of course, you're gonna have England, all of the UK, and so on and so forth. And of course, originally before that dispersal happened, I mean, there's Israelites. Okay, there were Israelites. Even after that dispersal, there was Israelites, Moorish people, all right, which just means black or dark-skinned. All right, there was Moorish people in England, there was Moors in Ireland, there was Moors in Scotland, all right, Scotland, all right, that's where my ancestry goes back to, is the Moors of Scotland. My original name, because I'm under a different last name, because again, my dad's quote-unquote dad was not the right guy, but our original name in Scottish Gaelic means Brown Lord. Okay, I was saying for a while Black Lord. I recently looked it up recently. It means Brown Lord, Brown Lord, Brown Lord, or Brown Horse Lord. Okay, or Lord, Brown Lord of the Horses, right? Something along those lines. But it breaks down to 3 words: Brown Lord Horse. Okay, so basically, brown horseman. All right, a brown horseman. Okay, and brown not as in like a horse, but a brown lord, and it can mean skin color. It can also mean brown horse. It can mean a horse lord. It can mean a lot of different things. All right, but of course those are all nuances that Esau brought later. All right, because of course they're like names like Black Lord. What do you think that? Well, Black Lord. It was really dealing with like a horse, a black horse, and he was the lord of the horse. Sure. All right, that's all part of their little cunning scheme to cover things up. All right, that's really a paper iconoclasm, right? They're iconoclasm. They're erasing history. That's what they do. Digital iconoclasm. They do that as well. So this is referring to them, all right? And they think that they're the best, all right? But anyway, there was Moors in those lands and black people, so-called black people, and before they went and they spread out all the land, all right? Europe, England, all right, and then there's a lot of the people you see in England now. I mean, because originally the black people, so-called Moors, were the original Britons, all right. That's going to be heavily debated because Esau wants to debate it because they don't want it to be true. But if you look at the biblical, heraldry, and then you look at the ancient heraldry of England, all right, and some of it's still in play today, well, it adds up. All right, but the thing, well, maybe it's the white people then. Maybe they're the Israelites. Well, that is one of the things that people think. All right, there's a whole group of people that think they're the Hebrew Israelites, and they'd be wrong. All right, well, I mean, really, they are Hebrew Israelites. They're white Hebrew. Well, they're not Israelites. Excuse me. They are Hebrews. All right, they're just not Israelites. They're white Hebrew Edomites. Okay, as if they wanted to call themselves, or just Hebrew Edomites. Okay, we don't like to attach a skin color onto anything necessarily because you could be any color and still be an Israelite. All right. And an Edomite, whichever one, right? Hopefully it's the right one, all right, the Israelite and not an Edomite. But you can be any skin color and be any nation, all right? Skin color is not a derivative of who you are, all right? It's just how you are, all right? It's not who you are, it's how you are. How are you? Very pale, all right? But it's not who you are. You aren't oh, I am of the Pale Land. No, you're of what house are you from? House of Israel or house of Esau? Where are you from? And but yeah, anyway, I ramble on. And where was I going? I felt like there was more I wanted to talk about that. But anyway, yeah, so they basically, if you go into look into that, so they're going to think that, but it's the Edomites, they don't, the so-called white people, they don't fit the curses. Okay, they don't fit the curses, and their immigration patterns don't match up, so they couldn't be the people. There again, Jake was there at that time during the 1,000 years when Esau had that yoke on their neck before they were able to have the dominion to remove it. Okay, and then after that 1,000 years, they went forth and deceived the nations, right, as it's prophesied within the Bible. And that's all the Crusades. The Crusades is pretty much the only time where I think Esau was ever kind of cool. All right, I'm into medieval history, so I think the Crusades were probably the only time where Esau was just a little bit cool. and that's it. And it wasn't cool what they were doing because there was crusading. But when you deal with the Saracen and all that stuff, like the Turkish Empire and stuff, there's interesting stuff about that, and not the spreading of Christianity. But if you look at it in a rose-tinted goggles, right, how they do. If you look up like Crusades, like the battle, right, like if you look at like the Crusades, I mean the art's pretty fucking cool, right? It's pretty cool. You know, they got all this awesome art and stuff like that. But of course, this is probably not really how it was historically. These are probably just our depictions of it, and these could be fairly modern depictions. All right, but anyway, for the most part, what their lie, all right, is pretty interesting. All right, I don't like the true history of the Crusades, but their lie is pretty interesting. How it was just mostly the European Christian that spread their faith of God, all right, to the heathen and pagan nations of the Saracen, which are the Turkish and in the Middle East, who were Muslim extreme. You know, that shit's cool, but in reality, what they were really doing is they were also attacking us, and they were pushing forth all of our history and making all of our paintings, you know, leprous and doing all a bunch of evil shit. But if you look at it from the historical lie, it's pretty cool, right? Pretty cool time. Only time Esau was kind of cool. All this shit's pretty cool, but you know, the sieges and all that stuff, and you think about it, oh yeah, they're warring for God, but they're warring for white Jesus is who they're really warring for. And not only were they killing so-called Saracens or Arabic or Turkish individuals, you know, Ishmael and so on, and they were also killing Jake. They were also, you know, hiding our heritage as Israelites, the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. But anyway, nerding out on that. But yeah, man, so they, and hell, part of that, they try to make themselves look cool, because why do they try to make themselves look better? That's a perfect segue. Call all you how about Shemao Shai. They try to make themselves look better than what they would say the common man, right? And, you know, we are the upholders of justice. We are the white man. We have colonized and conquered. We are the most powerful. You know, we are the smartest, the prettiest, the best inventors, when they're not the smartest at all. They're definitely not the prettiest, and half of those inventions are stolen. And then within those half that are stolen, another half of that is stolen as well. So, and the other part left that isn't stolen, cut that down to 3 parts, and 2 of those parts, all right, were ripped off, all right, of, you know, slight ideas, and the other one's an actual original thought that, you know, might just be okay. But they wouldn't even have any of their music genres without us, man. All right, they wouldn't have their musical genres, all right, without us at all. And Esau's just Esau. That's just how it is. And Esau doesn't have no sauce, man. I remember a time, and I don't mean to brag or boast or anything, so don't take it like that, but just showing you Jake Flavor versus not Jake Flavor. I remember there was a time in high school, because, you know, I played guitar. I can still play guitar. I still own guitars. I just don't play them that often. Now more so I just play with a keyboard. And, you know, there was this individual I knew, all right, named Steve, and he was a so-called white individual. He claimed to have a Mexican father, but I think the guy was an Edomite, all right, because the guy was constantly lying, constantly stealing. All right, he was constantly, you know, everybody just like didn't like this guy. You know, he was just kind of like, I mean, the guy he was fucked up. He was weird. I mean, he would just lie about anything, the smallest thing, man. And you know, I mean, there are Jake liars as well, but the way this guy was, looking back, he had to have been an Edomite, man. And he always in a woe is me, always playing a victim, constantly just calling, oh, you guys are, you know, you're making fun of me, and you know, it's like, God, my God, dude. And anyway, he played guitar, right? He played guitar. Substantially better than me, mind you, to an extent, right? I'm not formally taught, right? I'm one of the guys that picked up a guitar and listened to some heavy metal, Metallica, Black Sabbath, Ozzy Osbourne, you know, Slayer, you know, things like that, you know, death metal bands like Obituary, Death, right? Cannibal Corpse, and you know, picked up the guitar, and, you know, you'd hear the song, and you'd put your fingers on some power chords, you know, my dad played guitar as well. So, you know, of course, he showed me the power chords, and you'd hear it out, you'd listen, oh, is that the chord? And you'd continue to do it. And you'd eventually, you know, basically I was a good rhythm guitarist. I wasn't a good lead guitarist. I couldn't shred or anything. I was an Eddie Van Halen. Couldn't play Eruption. None of that. Couldn't do any of that, right? This guy could, okay? This guy could, but he annoyed a lot of people with it, right? So this guy wasn't a good rhythm guitarist. He couldn't carry a rhythm, okay? And I actually had a band at that time, or formulations of a band, and nobody liked to fucking play with this guy, man. Nobody liked to play with him because you'd be, you know, here it is. You got the bass player, you know, and then you have the guitarist, and this guy would come over and go, it's like, what are you doing? That's not, no, man. He would try to solo through a whole song. Right? He would try to just solo and showboat. And that's another thing, another reason why he's more than likely an Edomite. Constantly trying to show off. And the two people that I played with fucking hated this guy, man. We eventually just fucking banned this guy from coming over. Stopped fucking coming around us. He stole some shit from me. Stole from me. Stole a fucking hat from me. Stole some change off the guy I was playing with, just Dresser. The guy was just a fucking prick, and you guys fucking hate me, talking shit about me. The guy was just a fucking asshole, right? The guy was a fucking asshole, and he was weird too. He was a weird dude, like one pulls wiener out in weird situations. The guy was just fucking weird. Anyway, the guy was just weird. He was a weirdo, and Esau, just Edomite. Right? And anyway, a little bit of the backstory. But before I met this guy, all right, I knew him before he was introduced. Well, you know what? I lie. I knew this guy before he met those guys. All right, and he ended up meeting those guys, and I ended up dating those guys' sisters eventually, which turned to be a horrible situation. Taught me a lot about Edomites. All right, but you know, a growing, learning situation. Right. But it was after that I stopped trusting so-called white women, and I just like, you know, I need to go back to my so-called black women that I like, and call like how bosh me. I'll try that. Ended up working well. But you know, I got one of the good ones. As they say. No, not all black women are bad, all right? There are good ones as well. You know, we love our Israelite sisters, all right? Just putting that out there. Just, you got to be in the right way. And a lot of our people are in the wrong way. So, that's just how it is. And, but anyway, I met this guy. I can't remember if I said his name. Anyway, his name was Steve. And I met this guy in high school, right? Freshman year, sophomore year. I knew this guy, right? We met, I don't remember how. I think I was wearing a metal band t-shirt, and he might have been wearing a metal band t-shirt. Oh, shit, you like heavy metal? Oh, yeah, I like heavy metal. Oh, me too. Right? And all that type of shit. And anyway, I ended up dropping out of school in like mid-sophomore year. I just dropped out because I wasn't learning anything, and I wasn't gaining anything. And I was too busy, if you really want the truth, I was too busy ditching and smoking weed and drinking alcohol and shit and smoking cigarettes and stealing from stores. That's what I was doing. That's what I was doing. Right? Everybody was, oh, of course, just a Jake. Well, white kids were doing it. White kids used to do it with me all the time. So, nice try. But matter of fact, white kids actually usually did it more. But anyway, we ended up, you know, later on after I dropped out, I ended up running into him again because we lost contact. I ended up running into him again at a Walmart. Like, oh shit, Steve. And he's like, hey, what's up, man? And anyway, I'm getting off the topic. But anyway, and then later on he introduced me. He said, hey man, you want to go smoke some weed? I said, yeah, man, I'll go smoke some weed. And he introduced me to the people that I ended up having a band with. And then of course we ended up fucking kicking him out, all right, because well, first of all, he was never really in the band. The band was never really existent until me and the other guys really sat down and thought of the name, and then it was a band. Before then, we were just jamming together. So he was really never in the band or the work. I mean, he was in the workings of the band. But anyway, all that story to tell you that when we were in high school, that's when I first started knowing that this guy was a liar, a thief, and all this stuff. He stole from me when we were in high school. I don't remember. I think that's one of the reasons. I don't remember the reasons we fell out. Most of it was just because I thought he stole from me, but I couldn't necessarily prove it. But later on, after he introduced me to those guys, he gave them a hat, and that fucking hat was my hat that he stole in fucking high school. And I know because the hat had a tear in it, and I sewed it up, and it fucking had the same tear with the sewing in it. I'm a fucking asshole. Anyway, in school, he brought his guitar to school, and he convinced me one day to bring my guitar to school. Or maybe I didn't bring my guitar. I was playing his guitar, all right? I was playing his guitar. I still have one of his guitars, actually, in the garage, believe it or not. I traded, he was like, he had an extra guitar, and he's like, I'm trying to sell it. I'm like, you want like a gram or two of weed and like a vape? All right, because back in the day, you had those old vapes, the old ones. And he was like, yeah, sure, man. So I still have that, basically. I think it was like 10 $10 on top of it too. I think I gave him $10 a vape and a gram of weed. All right, so that's like back then that was like what, like $30. So I still have that guitar too. It's funny as hell. All right, still have my other guitar too. That's a Fender Stratocaster type body from the '80s. Anyway, I'm getting rambly. All right, I get like that when it's too late. It's almost 3 in the morning. So not to give an excuse, but I just noticed that I get rambly when it's late. But anyway, we were at school. He was playing his guitar, right? He hooked it up. It was right outside the physical education. All right, the PE. We had a big separate building. Looked like a dome, like a coliseum. If I'm remembering correctly, I might not be. And so we were out right there because I remember that area right out in there. You know, you would go in there. You know, it's like basically like you'd have like the area where you'd enter the school. All right, and then off to the left was the area we would play at, which is part of that dome that was the PE. But you know, the other part that right in front of us was the entrance to school. There was a lot of people there and there. That, you know, I guess he wanted to be seen, right? So he's jamming, all right, and nobody's really paying attention, all right, shredding and all that shit. Everybody's walking by, and I said, hey man, let me hit a few licks on that, and I start just doing some rhythm shit. And you know, like I think I got the intention of a few ladies, cute ladies or something like that, and he didn't really quite like that at all. He was always really jealous of me too because I could get the ladies and he couldn't. I didn't even try. Honestly, it's just because of the way he looked at the time. Like a lot of women are homosexuals. At the time, I had long hair. I had very very long hair, all on my face, emo hair, and I didn't have no facial hair or anything. I wasn't really growing it like that, and you know, skinny as hell, wore skinny jeans and shit. So of course, you know, this guy. You know, didn't really do that. And good for him, but, you know, the ladies didn't really like him, all right? They liked more of the alternative style guy. And, yeah, man, but it's just one of those things where Jake Flavor, okay? Jake is just different. And, because I was just playing some basic rhythms, and they looked at it, but they didn't care about his, you know, going on and on and on and on. Everybody talked shit about that guy. Right? The band members, my dad didn't like him. Like, oh, that guy, all he fucking wants to do is showboat and fucking just play he wants to solo through a whole song. Right? It's true. Nobody wants that, man. And my dad was in bands all growing up, too. So he knows that fucking that's not looked upon greatly, all right, when you're in a band, all right, trying to showboat constantly. I mean, imagine if you're fucking Phil Collins and it up the whole time as a drummer. Just like, hey, man, can you fucking keep the rhythm? And what are you doing? All right, this isn't the band of Dave. All right, this is our band. All right, we're all doing it together. I have my part, you have your part. Stop trying to fucking showboat. All right. But anyway, getting back to the topic, Esau does that a lot. Why? Because they think they're better, but really they're not better, and that goes into their delusion. All right, that delusion that they have. Verse 2, and we're going to read it all the way together now. Obadiah 1 and 1 down through 3. The vision of Obadiah, thus saith the Lord Yahweh concerning Edom, we have heard a rumor from the Lord, and an ambassador is sent among the heathen. Arise ye, and let us rise up against her in battle. Behold, I have made thee small among the heathen, thou art greatly despised. So, again, verse 3. The pride of thine heart hath deceived thee, thou that dwellest in the clefts of the rock, whose habitation is high, that saith in his heart, who shall bring me down to the ground? So his habitation is high. He likes dwelling in those high places, high-rise apartments, sky-rise apartments, skyscrapers, all these different types of things, lofts, right? All those things at the top. That's what he likes, all right? Those are the things that he likes. And he dwells in the clefts of the rock. All right, that's how he got his term Caucasian. All right, because he was dwelling in the fucking clefts of the rocks in the Caucasus Mountains, right, and over there in Russia. But again, like it says in 3, the pride of thine heart hath deceived thee. So their deep set in pride is what has deceived them. Okay, it's gotten their mind, it's messed them up. Because really, they're small among the heathen and are greatly despised, as it says in 2. But they don't realize that. They don't really see how hated they are. All right, and most notably because you have a couple bad actors. You got a couple fucking coons and Uncle Juans. All right, and of course you got the other nations that were confederate with them, and we love you so much. All right, dealing with the so-called Asians and a bunch of other people, man. And that's just the thing. is that this is they've deceived themselves through their pride. This is Galatians 6:3. For if a man think himself to be something when he is nothing, he deceiveth himself. And he does, because the pride of thine heart, all right, hath deceived thee. All right, and that's what has happened. Their pride has deceived them. They think they're so good because they view themselves so good, but really they're not. All right, and if you keep on trying to lie to yourself like that, eventually you'll potentially believe it. Okay, and they think they're the best. They think they're the arbitrator of justice. They think they're like the God, and they're the wicked. They're at the lowest. All right, they're the low. There's no one as low. There's no one as low. There's no one as wicked. There's no one as evil. There's no one as vile as this man Esau. All right, the so-called white man. Hebrews 12:16, it says, "Let there be any fornicator or profane person." Profane is ungodly. Fornicator is, well, all sexual acts and wickedness and all sorts of disgustingness, right? Primarily it's dealing with sexual acts, but it can deal with wickedness as well. Okay, let there be any fornicator or profane person as Esau, who for one morsel of meat sold his birthright. You took something so great, such as the birthright, and you sold it. All right, it was not stolen, mind you. A lot of people like to say, "Oh, it was stolen." It wasn't stolen. It was sold for some meat. Well, Jacob took advantage. No, he made a transaction. Okay, you didn't have to say yes. Okay, if someone says, "Hey, I'm gonna buy your car for $5," and you say yes, and then you're mad because now all you got was $5, well, you shouldn't have fucking sold your car for $5. All right, it should have meant something more to you. But the reason why Esau sold his birthright for one morsel of meat is because it didn't mean shit to him. He hated that birthright. He despised his birthright. You can look that up. It's in the scripture. All right, despised his birthright. Is it in verse 17? Is it in this next one? I do that a lot. It's not. Yeah, right. Right here, Genesis 25 and 34. And this is this is exact time and place when it happened. Genesis 25 and 34. Then Jacob gave Esau bread and pottage of lentils, and he did eat and drink and rose up and went his way. He didn't stop. What have I done? No, he just rose up and went his way. He didn't even think about anything until later, right? It says, thus Esau despised his birthright. He didn't like it. He hated it. He didn't want, and really, the Lord already knew that birthright was going to go to Jacob. A lot of people like to say that. Oh, well, the Lord already knew Jacob was going to get it, because right when Rebekah was, with child, he said, 2 nations are in thy womb, and the elder shall serve the younger. Well, if we're going off of ancient biblical, Israelite birthrights, the younger was to serve the older, not the older serving the younger. How could this be? Well, the Lord must have known. He did know that there was going to be a transaction that happened. All right, why he knew that? Because he had that transaction happen. Okay, it's flavor. Okay, some people say, why when the movie opens, are they, is he getting to the, instead of just getting to the point, why do they have him drive in and, they have that scene where they're singing and, they're making their way. Oh, we're going to the cabin. And yeah, horror movies, right? They're always like, hey man, you were ready to get fucked up on the weekend and go to the cabin. Yeah, man, whose cabin is this anyway? It's my grandfather's. He used to live there, but he died, and, now it's just all free, and we're going to go up there and take some sweet ladies up there and get loaded, man. Did you bring the weed? I sure did. Nice. Why not just show them at the cabin? All right, because it's set dressing, it's building. All right, it's a story. The Lord's telling the most ultimate story, the greatest story that's ever been told. All right, and we're all a part of it. Okay, and with that, there's going to be some flavoring agents. Esau's like, oh, why did this happen? Why? You don't understand. That's flavor, baby. Right? The Lord's got flavor. I understand. You don't know what flavor is. You don't know what salt is. Don't know what pepper is either. And I understand, but that's what the Lord's doing. He's seasoning his food. Okay. Not that you would understand. But anyway, Habakkuk 2 and 5. Yea, also because he transgresses by wine, he is a proud man, showing he was a proud man. Neither keepeth at home, who enlargeth his desires hell, and is as death. This man is as death, and cannot be satisfied, but gathereth unto him all nations, and heapeth unto him all people. He's a greedy, slaver, a death-like evil being and so on. Really, you're a fucking supervillain. All right, that's really what you are, Esau. You're just a fucking supervillain, and the Lord's gonna get you back, right? The Lord's gonna get you back, and regardless if you think that he's not, Okay, he is. Again, because we know that the pride of thine heart has deceived thee, right? We do know that, all right? So we know, oh, I'm not, you know. Well, there's a scripture says, who shall bring me down? All right, well, right in the next verse after that, the Lord talks about bringing you down, right? So that's who's going to bring you down, the Lord. So here's a couple scriptures about minding your business and shutting the hell up, all right? This is what I wanted to get. And again, like I said earlier, a little sticky note I wrote down. He likes to mind other people's business instead of, you know, minding their own. And they think they're the judge of the whole world. They're the arbitrator of justice. All right, let's go and look. I keep on saying that. What is an arbitrator of justice? In short, come on, doing all this extra text, extra bullshit. Okay, it says an arbitrator of justice is an impartial judge chosen to settle a dispute out of court. Okay, they don't need to do that. All right, they want to do it themselves. All right, out of the court. Okay, I am the law. All right. So that's what they want to do. And really that's we're going to get into that, being garrulous, all right? Just fucking using a bunch of words when you don't even need to. It was a perpetual situation that was hopping at the most gleaming light of dawn. It was quite substantial and immaculate when the grand masquerade was coming to town. It was the most gauche situation that could, you know, it was so peculiar, and when it befell, it's stupid, all right? Stupid, just a bunch of words thrown together, word salad. All right, as you will. So anyway, we're gonna get into that, but actually, let's get that now. Right here, it says this is 1 Timothy 5:13. Now we're gonna go back and get the other ones. 1 Timothy 5:13. It says, and withal, and again, these are really instructions for us. All right, but again, if Esau wants to maintain justice and be the righteous, well, these are what you should be following. And you're not, and that shows you who you are. 1 Timothy 5:13, and withal they learn to be idle, wandering about from house. Maybe we'll start from 12. Yeah, we'll go from 12. Having damnation, 1 Timothy 5:12-13. It gives us enough context, right? It says, having damnation because they have cast off their first faith, and withal they learn to be idle, wandering about from house to house, and not only idle, but tattlers also, and busybodies, speaking things which they ought not. And everybody knows, you know, who was the tattler in school? Esau. They're always tattling, and tattling ain't like tattling isn't like upholding justice. It's not like bringing condemnation, all right, to a situation that was not in the light. All right, it's not like someone, you know, killed someone and you told. That's not tattling. All right, that's bringing someone to justice. All right, that's a testimony. Okay, tattling is, you're like, he's not looking at his test. You know, oh, he's sharpening his pencil again, or he's, you know, he's trying to cheat, or he's using a number 1 pencil and not a number 2. You know, or he keeps on looking at me. You know, all those little small little fucking little dumbass shit. All right, just tattling. All right, just trying to tattle. Just trying to tell, not minding your business, being a busybody, not minding your business, but instead minding other people's business, right? And the NRSV, it says, and so they incur condemnation for having violated their first pledge. Besides that, they learn to be idle, gadding about from house to house, going over here, going over there, right? It says, and they are not merely idle, but also gossips or gossipers and busybodies, saying what they should not say. Just going around just telling people's business, you know, just telling people's business, being a tattler, you know, stupid. He's sitting down. What are you talking about, right? Just meaningless little shit. So I just typed in 1 Timothy 5:13. It's great. It says, the AI overview got it. It says, the Apostle Paul warns against the dangers of idleness and gossip. He cautions that without productive work, people can form negative habits, wandering from house to house, meddling in others' affairs, and spreading rumors and sayings they shouldn't. I heard the EP sitting down. Did you hear that? Did you hear that? That's tattling. That's just little stupid little gossips, all right? And it's fucking dumb, all right? For gossips, the Greek term here is used to refer to babbling and talking nonsense, a bunch of bullshit, all right? Just a bunch of bullshit that really doesn't, it doesn't mean anything, okay? If you go and you look in that word tattling in the Strongs, all right, here it is.
Strong's G 5397. Fluoros.
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 You can see I got it from the exact same scripture. Okay, and I'll just do it again. Tattlers. Here we are, just to show you no funny business. It means tattler, a person's uttering and doing silly things. Garrulous, babbling of things foolish, trifling, vain, useless, just uselessness, doing useless shit. All right, trifling. All right, and there, if you're a Jake, you know what trifling means, right?
Trifling.
All right, trifling. All right, let's just type trifling. All right, let's do trifling. All right, trifling. All right, it's AAVE, African American Vernacular English, as they say, or IAVE. All right, Israelite American Vernacular English. All right, Israelites in America Vernacular English, right? It says a derogatory term used to describe someone who's irresponsible, untrustworthy, unfaithful, or a low moral character. That last one is most prevalent here. A low moral character. He's trifling. He's doing some trifling ass shit. All right, constantly. All right, just fucking meddling in other people's business, being trifling and shit. Nobody likes it. Okay, nobody likes it. Not even the Lord. All right, that's why he had his prophets to warn you not to do those things. Here's garrulous.
Garrulous.
Or garrulous. Okay, because that's what the word goes back to. Someone who's excessively and tiresomely talkative. I was being a little garrulous earlier, right? I tend to do it sometimes. Often rambling on about trivial, unimportant matters. It can also refer to a writing or speech that is overly wordy or long-winded, okay? So, speech tends to be indirect, meandering, and repetitive. Sometimes I get a little rambly. Sometimes I get a little garrulous. Okay, but there's a difference between getting a little garrulous and being constant garl. I don't even know if that's a word, but that's Esau. All right, that's what they do. They're constantly, involving themselves in trivial matters. And the other thing is that writing or speech is overly wordy. All right, it was an impeccable nuance bringing the grand masquerade into this delightful part of the city. It was most dignifying. And perplexing with all perplexities. When it's like, what are you doing, man? Why are you writing like this? Why are you talking like this? It gets annoying. All right, it gets annoying, real quick and real fast. So going back, all right, because we already got that one. 1 Thessalonians 4:11 through 12, it says, "And that ye study to be quiet and to do your own business and to work with your own hands, as we commanded you, that ye may walk honestly towards them that are without, and that ye may have lack of nothing." Over another translation, the NRSV all right, the updated edition. It's the same. It's the NRSV. It says to aspire to live quietly, to mind your own affairs, right, and to work with your hands as we directed you, so that you may behave properly towards outsiders and be dependent on no one. Matter of fact, if you go, there's a little button. There used to be a button where I could I know the NLT or the NIV, one of them said just straight up, just mind your business. Let's see if it's NLT. Yeah, NLT. This isn't the one, but I think it was NIV, but the NLT gets it perfectly. They use the terms minding your business, so that's fine with me. 11, make it your goal to live a quiet life, minding your own business. Okay, and that's what we do. We live quiet lives where we mind our own business. We're not minding other people's business, right? We don't go and mind other people's business. We mind our own business, right? It says, in working with your hand. Well, you always talk about Esau. Well, that's because we're commanded to, all right? We're not obsessed with you like you're obsessed with us, all right? Another song comes into my mind. It's that female, Why You So Obsessed With Me? That's the female that sings that song. It says, make it your goal to live a quiet life, minding your own business and working with your hands, just as we instructed you before. Then people who are not believers will respect the way you live, and you will not need to depend on others. But you're always minding other people's business. And to show you who it was again, what I just looked up, what nation involved themselves the most with outside conflicts? And it's funny because it says, oh, right now it's the Edomites, but previously it was the Edomites. Right? It doesn't say it physically, but you'll see. Literally, it says, historically, answer depends on era. In defining a nation, the nation with the most outside inventions is tied to global hegemony. In the modern era, the last 100 years, the United States, modern Idumea, right, has been the most frequently involved with foreign intervention. However, looking back over the last centuries, the United Kingdom and First British Empire historically holds the record of sheer number of outside conflicts due to its centuries of global imperial expansion. Esau, constantly minding other people's business, constantly getting involved, can't keep their fucking mind or hands to themselves, right? So another one with that is 1 Peter 4:15. It says, but let none of you suffer as a murderer or as a thief or as an evildoer or as a busybody in other men's matters. Okay? And the NRSV, goes in a different area with it. But if we go and get the NLT, it should, or the NLV, it should fix that right out. It says, none of you should suffer as one who kills another person or one who steals or as one who makes trouble or as one who tries to be the boss of other people's lives. Okay? And we're not necessarily, we don't try, you say, well, you guys are trying, we're not trying to be the boss of other people's lives. We say, hey, man, what you're doing is wickedness. You shouldn't be doing it. All right. Well, I'm not going to do it. All right. Well, that's fine. Go about your business. All right. We're not going to say, we might cuss you out. All right. I'm like, no, you fucking wicked ass motherfucker, man. But we're not going to go and be like, please, you need to stop doing what you're doing. We're not going to do all that. We're not going to do all that. Okay? That's not us. Okay? That's not us. We're not going to grab you by the shirt collar as you're walking away. No, you don't understand me, brother. You got to change your life. We're going to say, hey, man, you know what you're doing is wicked? Yeah, I don't care about what I'm doing. Hey, man, Lord's going to kill your wicked ass for doing that. Fuck you. No, fuck you, man. All right? And that's what it's going to be. We're not going to try to fucking jump out in front of you and throw out some type of crazy light raft for you. Please, Lord, wrap him around the neck with it. Please throw it. I tried to throw out the buoy, but they ain't grabbing it. Please give me a rope so we can grab him by the neck, by the legs. We can wrap him up. We can tie him up, and we can bring him back to the faith, Lord. No, we're not going to try to be the boss over you in that state. All right, and really, the NLT goes a little off with it, but or the NLV goes a little off with it because it's not really, it's good being a boss of other people's lives, but it's more about minding other people's business instead of minding yours. You're going, here it is, you're a baker and you're going over to the steakhouse. So what are you doing over there? So what is it that you do? What are you doing, man? Mind your business. And that's, of course, that's not necessarily wicked, but something like that. Here it is, you've dedicated, I only want to be a baker and I only want to be a baker. But all of a sudden now you want to see what the steakhouses are doing. Why? Now you're a baker. Why are you meddling in the affairs of others? Right? That's what you do. So, yes and no with being the boss of other people's lives. We don't try to be boss of other people's lives like Esau. Again, we try to lead people to the light through Yahweh Shemel Shai by teaching and preaching this gospel. But if they don't want it, that's fine. We're not going to try to boss them with it. Esau, on the other hand, you must believe what I believe. All right? And that's fine. All right? But it just ain't going to go your way. So, this is Ezekiel 35:15. That's where we're going to close out with. So, don't want to read this? I'll read it anyway. I got it with, potentially maybe thinking it would go into a different segue. But I'll read it anyway, because really what Esau has done, what they want done unto us is really going to be done unto them. It says, at Ezekiel 35:15, as thou did rejoice at the inheritance of the house of Israel, and we, what do we inherit? Destruction and curses and all the horribleness. It says, because it was desolate, so will I do unto thee. Thou shalt be desolate, O Mount Seir, and all Idumea, even all of it, and they shall know that I am the Lord. So really, it's a good way to close out this. Really, they try to do all these things and try to perpetrate us as being wicked and mind our business and try to do other. You're the ones that are killing. You're the ones stealing. Yeah, but 80% of black crime affects black people. Okay, that's 20% that is for all other nations. Okay, not just you white people, but white people, Mexican people, Asian people, Somalian people, Hawaiian people, right? So on and so forth. Okay, Native American people, right? That's all the other people, not just you, Esau. 80% is towards other black people. That's not bothering you. Okay, that's not. Well, they're doing it in their neighborhood. You don't live in their neighborhoods. You don't live in their neighborhoods. Well, I can't go anywhere safe. You're not living in their neighborhoods. Okay? You're not living on MLK. You're not living on 408 Street. Okay? You're not living on 3 Block. Okay? You're not living here. Okay? You're not living on Malcolm Boulevard. Okay, you're not. You're not. You're not living on any of these places. You're not living in these streets. You're not living in Project 8, Section 8 housing. All right, you're not living in the projects. You're not living in Section 8 housing. You're not living in the ghetto. You're not living in the hood. You're barely living in impoverished areas. And if you do live in an impoverished area, you have your own white version of it, the trailer parks, okay, and white trailer parks. There's ones that allow, all right, black people. It's more, you know, black and Mexican. And then there's ones that are pretty much all white, and you don't want to go to those places, right? And that's where you're at. Even if you're poor, you're in those places, right? You say, oh, well, in our land, I've even seen the poor Edomites, places like West Virginia and stuff like that. It's, you know, they're in those trailer parks and those haulers, right? There ain't no black people, okay? There ain't no black people living in a hauler, okay, or a trailer park. They're not. Barely. Some areas they might have black hauler areas, but on general, no, they're not. And they ain't there. So where are you being affected by black crime, okay? Because even if you were living in the ghetto, say even if you were living in the ghetto, I'll let you complain and say that, yes, all right? Because I live in North Las Vegas, and some of the areas I go to are a little rougher. And you know what? It doesn't fucking bother me, okay? It doesn't fucking bother me, because at the end of the day, look, I look like a so-called white person. Have I been bothered? No, I haven't been bothered. Again, Lord one, I'm part of the elect, so that could be another reason why I'm not being fucked with. But I mind my business at the end of the day. Right? I mind my business at the end of the day. If a black person comes up and talks to me, right? Well, I mean, I'm a Jake, so obviously, you know, most of the time it's fine anyway. But I mean, what are they gonna do? They're not the fucking boogeyman. They're no boogie the boogie. No, what the fuck? You know, Esau comes up with these like fantastical situations. And what I mean by fantastical is within their mind these fantasy, you know, fantastical. Let's look up that word, fantastical. Meaning, look, possessing a quality of fantasy, something that is an exceptionally strange, imaginative, or unreal. All right, these fantastical scenarios. Well, what if I'm in the projects because you know, the main road was cut off, and instead of the main road, I have to go down through the black area, and you know, the main road is somewhat fine, but I have to take a departure through MLK Boulevard and at 2 a.m. for some reason. I don't know, maybe my wife's in labor, and then I'm gonna be ran out in the street by black barbarian apes, and they're gonna rip me and my pregnant wife, and they're gonna beat me mercilessly to death, and they're gonna rape her. That's not gonna happen. What the fuck are you talking about? That's not going to happen. But they make up these fucking scenarios, these fantastical scenarios. Because they try to seem more oppressed than they are. They have this oppression, the oppression Olympics. They want the oppression fetish. You know, oh, they're going to do that. It's not happening. It's not happening, man. It's not. It's just not happening. Okay? It's not. Okay? I look like a so-called white person. If I was out walking amongst you, you would consider me a so-called white person. It's not happening. It's not happening. You want to know why it's not happening? Because it's not happening. Okay? If you were a black man, your probability of getting shot is higher. By who? A black man. Just like as if you're a white man, your probability of getting shot is more higher of another white man. Did you know that? Crime is usually within a racial circle, okay? It usually stays, you know, within the family, as so to speak, okay? So white on white crime is more prevalent than black on white or white on black, okay? And black on black crime is more prevalent than black on white or white on black. Same thing. Same scenario. And if you really want to switch it up from there, it's more prevalent after that for white on black crime than black on white crime. Okay? Let's look that up. Is white on black crime more prevalent than black on white crime? This whole situation now, with the Austin Metcalf, they might just change it into a lie. So let's see. Here we go. See, they've changed it. It says black on white crime is statistically more prevalent than white on black crime in terms of absolute numbers and individual victimization rates. And you know, going back a little while ago, it would have been different. But because of this whole Austin Metcalf situation, it's just the whole situation is fucked up. You're not going to be able to find any information. A matter of fact, I was wrong on that one. I said 80%. Black on black crime is 90% of black homicide. 90% of roughly 90% of black homicide victims are killed by black offenders. White on white. 80 to 82% of white homicide victims are killed by white offenders. So there you go. white on white crime is roughly 4 times higher than black on white crime. Again, looking out the window instead of looking out the mirror. Similarly, the rate of black on black crime is more than 5 times higher than white on black crime. So there you go. So black people kill black people more than white people kill black people. All right. And then white people kill white people more than black people kill white people. And on top of that, the rate of white on white crime is roughly 4 times higher than black on white crime. Okay. So there you go. This crime is overwhelmingly interracial. They're trying to be, woke with it. But anyway, it says interracial crime of any kind is rare, but they're saying you're more likely to get attacked if you're white with black. But again, it's bullshit. But I'll let you have that one, Esau. You can have it, all right? Because I know you're not going to believe the statistics and stuff like that. But that's a newer thing that came out, because it used to be, yes, a black person is more likely to be attacked than a white person by a white person than a white person being attacked by a black person. But I guess the statistics have gone up, right? And of course, you're going to see that with Austin Metcalf. I mean, the Austin Metcalf Wikipedia page is wild. If you go and check that out, it's all about race. I mean, it's not even about the situation. It's literally just a race war on the fucking Wikipedia. You can go and look at it. And they're constantly having edits, because I'm sure they're trying to, Carmelo Anthony. But the funny thing is, Carmelo Anthony doesn't have a page, but Austin Metcalf does. So that's what I thought was interesting. Well, that's because he is a killer. Well, yeah, even if he's a killer, Jeffrey Dahmer has a page, right? So just saying. But anyway, so that's the situation, is that how they rejoice over our fall, okay, the same is going to be done unto them, all right? And there's another scripture, I can't remember how it goes, if a brother, in the extracurricular activity, if a brother wants to post it, basically if you lie on someone, all right, whatever punishment you wanted to befall them, that's really going to happen to you, okay? Matter of fact, I'll go and do it. I know there ain't a whole bunch of people on the comment board, but KJV scripture about if you lie on someone, whatever would have been done to them will be done to you. About your brother. Not exactly how it's worded, but let's go and look. This is the one. Okay. If a false, Deuteronomy 19 and 16 through 19, then we'll close out. If a false witness, a lie, rise up against any man to testify against him that which is wrong. I thought it was dealing with brothers. All right. But it's just 2 men. Then both, so again, let me start over. If a false witness rise up against any man to testify against him that which is wrong. Hey, he did insert, he murdered someone, put him to death, right? Then what happens? Then both the men, both whom the controversy is, shall stand before the Lord, before the priests and the judges, which shall be in those days. And the judges shall make a diligent inquisition. They're going to look, they're going to find things out, they're going to, they're going to do a diligent inquisition. They're going to make sure, they get the information. Not like Esau's court, they're going to make sure, and it might take a while, right? And behold, if the witness be a false witness, if it really was a lie, and hath testified falsely against his brother, there's the term, his brother, that's dealing with brethren, not literally, your brother. Then, so what happens then, if you did lie? Then shall ye do unto him as he had thought to have done unto his brothers, to his brother. So shall thou put the evil away from among you. So you could rid the evil from out of the house of Israel. So say if he was a murderer, he killed someone, put him to death. Well, if that was the punishment and you would have been put to death, guess what? You get to be put to death now, all right? Because you wouldn't have had no issue with it happening to that man, okay? So, or anything, he's a liar, or he's a thief, he needs to pay that man back sevenfold. Well, no, he didn't do it. Well, guess what? Now you have to pay back sevenfold, probably in reparation to that man, all right, that you did that thing against, right? You'd probably be the one that would get that money from him. So yeah, man. But that's just how it is with Esau. Esau don't understand the word reparation. They don't understand reparations for an evil, okay? But the Lord's gonna make sure you understand it quite well, all right, when he comes back. So that's where we're gonna close out. So again, I just want to say Esau, or E, needs to focus on, well, I don't want to say it because it might be the title of the lesson. E is so worried about looking out the window that they're not looking in the mirror. And that's what happens. They need to look in the mirror because they're too busy looking out the window and they're not seeing all their flaws. And they won't see their flaws because, again, he's a proud man. So that's what we're going to close out with. How long we end up going? 2 hours? Almost. Hour and 30 minutes. That's where we're going to close out. Lord willing, it was edifying. Again, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to the Most High, Yahweh, Shem Yahweh Shai Ba, Shem Dash. Shalom, you brothers and sisters out there. Keep enduring. Keep the faith. We're almost out of here. Until next one, Lord willing. Shalom.